Hey guys, in this second part, we're going to break down our thoughts on Avengers Endgame. We'll talk about our favorite scenes, the fate of some of our characters, and more. This is episode 140 of the Reel-ists Podcast. Hello, listeners, and welcome. I am Donnie.
And I'm Oscar.
And we have our producer, Ruben, here. Hi. He says hi, and we are the Reel-ists Podcast.
Da-da-da.
So before we get started on this episode, we want to quickly just thank you guys for listening to us. You are in for a treat today. This is a part 2 of a 2-part special episode that we have. We are covering the film that is just completely sweeping the nation right now, worldwide, dominating in every country.
Dominating the Reel-ists Podcast with 2 episodes.
Avengers Endgame. If you've been sleeping under a rock, maybe you don't know what this film's about.
Go listen to the last episode.
Yeah, exactly. We recapped it. Oscar did a great job of recapping it. So if you want to hear a recap of the film, check out episode 139. If you've already seen it and you just want to hear our thoughts, then you can continue to listen to this episode. Really quickly, also want to remind you guys that we are on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Team Reel-ists. That's Team REELISTS, no dash. You can also listen to us on YouTube and leave us a comment there. You can also listen to us on iTunes, rate us, and leave us a comment on iTunes as well. So we thank you guys for that. Any feedback we get is great. So there's a lot to cover, so we are just going to jump right in. Spoiler discussion, just want to throw that out there, but I'm sure most of you all have seen this movie at this point, and if you have not, you've at least listened to our last episode of our recap of Endgame. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. Oscar, I will throw it to you. Just give us quick thoughts, initial thoughts.
Are you highlighting quick here? Lesson learned.
Try to keep it under like a minute 30 if you can.
Start the timer. Ready?
And go. What did you think of Endgame?
I mean, there's a lot to think about.
I know that's such an unfair question, but like, just give us bare bones.
I will say that I think it does an excellent job of kind of really put a bow to the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the last 21 films, being this one the 22nd. I think it just really allows everyone that's been watching these movies to feel like, to some degree, there's a conclusion. Yes, they're making more movies and it's continuing on, but if you kind of want to check out and be like, all right, I'm good, I'll wait for the next few movies to establish and the next big event, then I'll follow up, whatever, I think you can. And I think this movie does a nice job of making you feel rewarded for sticking through the end. It wasn't like because imagine like if Infinity War was the way that everything ended and they're just like, okay, next character, blah, 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 you wouldn't have felt satisfied. I think this one really does that satisfied. There are a lot of things in this movie that are positive and negatives in both and regarding as a movie and also like just how it impacts the Marvel Cinematic Universe overall, which I'm sure we'll go into detail. But overall, I just think this was a solid film, not just like as a blockbuster for 2019, but also for just the ability to feel like you have put a lid on the Marvel universe for now, at least in regarding to the characters you probably have loved from the original movies that were starting it.
I agree.
Is that under minute 30?
I think so. I think that was like 127. I think you barely made it. No, absolutely. I agree. I thought it was a really solid film. It's definitely, and I've been saying this to everyone, like it is definitely the end of an era for a lot, not only for a lot of these characters, but just for the MCU in general. Not that they're not making more films, but this is definitely, I mean, we've been working up to this moment for the past 11 years, for it to culminate. I can never say that word right. Accumulate.
Yeah.
I always mix it with cultivate, and I always want to like hybrid it into one word, but it accumulated into this, one story, this epic saga, and Infinity War and Endgame, and I think it definitely did a great job with, I think rewarding the loyal like viewership that it received over the past 11 years. I think You definitely, if you're up to date on all the MCU films, and you're really focused on like the end credit scenes, the post credit scenes, the mid credit scenes, and the movies in general. I think there's a lot of Easter eggs in here for you to just like, a lot of nods, a lot of homage, a lot of
one that I just found out like after just reading Twitter. But
what?
Howard the Duck was in the movie. Okay, completely.
Wait, what? Say that again? One more time?
So, Guardians of the Galaxy, the post-credit scene,
yeah.
The duck that was talking.
Yeah. He was in it?
He's in the final shot of everyone coming back to fight Thanos.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Where? I didn't see that.
He's when the Wasp appears.
Oh.
So he's like on the right side. He's short, so you don't see him like eye level, I guess.
Uh-huh.
But yeah.
Oh, I completely missed that. I didn't catch that at all.
Third viewing, let's go.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. But yeah, I think this movie was just so epic, and I mean, obviously it's just crushing the box office right now. It's at 1.2 billion worldwide, and it's just gonna continue to generate so much freaking profit. It's like insane. Yeah. But I mean, well deserved, I'd say. I mean, this isn't just like, like a fluke film, or like, oh, this is just one film, we're just testing waters. Like, this is a build-up, like, talk about a slow build-up, and like what a release it's just having right now. So yeah. It's just epic. It's so crazy. There's so many things to talk about. One of the first things I wanted to talk about was I wanted to get your thoughts on what did you go in expecting to happen with this film, and what of those predictions did come true, and what are the things that completely just threw you for a loop that you did not expect?
So, I mean,
I think everybody, everyone who's really into the MCU everyone had theories. Everyone had moments like, this is for sure, we're going to get this in this film, or so this person's for sure going to die. What did you think?
So there was a lot of fan theories, yes, for sure. And so that's kind of what I was following along with, what people were predicting. So I did expect time travel to be a part. I did expect, the showdown with Thanos. And that was kind of just the generals. I didn't know the specifics as to, like, what are they going to do in the time travel? How are they going to fight Thanos? And the trailers didn't indicate much. You got a little bit of snippets of stuff, but a lot of it was still kind of just like, I don't want to say useless scenes, but like useless shots that don't tell you exactly the full picture. It kind of gives you a very open end as like to when does that happen in the movie, or does that even happen in the movie? Because as they've done before with tricking us. So my expectation was kind of just more of, we are going to do time travel. We are going to get the stones to reverse and bring everyone back, because I just knew everyone was going to come back. Everyone that turned into dust was going to come back. The things that I wasn't so sure on the specifics was like, was Loki going to come back? How was Vision going to come back?
Vision
Gamora. So yeah, so those things were like kind of those that I was expecting to happen, but didn't happen in that way.
Yeah.
Or at least at all. So I think that's generally the more so of kind of my expectations. I feel like the plot of the movie was in the realm of what I was anticipating that we're going to get. I just didn't know the details, and I think the details were a lot of were hit and misses. To me, and I've told this to coworkers, that I knew that the first act was going to be about stopping Thanos, and then they were going to try to be like, well, how do we get everyone back? And the genius idea, let's go get the stones, back in time, with Ant-Man, and I knew that was going to be the initial segue into the plot. But again, after that, I was just like, I don't know how they're going to bring everyone back. I don't know how this is going to, work, or how the ending is going to be, who's going to die. I had a gut feeling one of our main heroes, Thor, Captain America, or Iron Man, was going to die. And in the final trailer, when you saw the three of them walking towards Thanos, that's when you kind of were just like, someone's going to die in that scene. So it was kind of like that. I guess that would be my kind of mindset going into this movie. I think it did a lot more fun surprises than disappointments. There's just some things that didn't work for me, but I think overall it was a very satisfying expectations going into it, and matching that expectation.
Yeah, I think if you're talking about like the main chunks that we all predicted, we knew that one of our mains was going to die. We knew that. Right. We all pretty much had the same idea that time travel in some capacity was going to have to be utilized to go back, or to undo what was done. So, right. For instance, I was thinking, I didn't know that we were going to use like the quantum realm, and like Scott was going to like, break it down. Like how can we basically build a time machine? I was thinking at first I was like, it's going to rely on the time stone. That was my initial thought.
Makes sense.
But then as soon as like right into the movie, Thanos is like, I used the stone to destroy the stone. So I'm like, damn, okay, so that theory ain't gonna happen. So that was like something that I didn't see coming, but I knew that I knew that either Captain America or Iron Man was gonna die. What I had thought was gonna happen was that, and I guess in some kind of capacity it did, I thought one was gonna directly sacrifice himself for the other one. Like I thought there was gonna be a moment where like, Thanos was getting ready to kill either, specifically Captain America or Iron Man, and the other one like just jumps in and takes the hit and dies for the other one to continue to carry on. It didn't necessarily happen like that, but that's what I thought. But for sure, I knew we were going to say goodbye to one of them, and unfortunately, it was my guy.
Team Cap, we won.
You only won because Iron Man died for you. Shit. But yeah, I mean that was probably like one of the things I figured was going to happen. And then obviously we knew all the characters were going to come back. Let me not say that because that didn't necessarily happen. Gamora didn't come back. We only just got a 2014 version of herself that came into the story.
Which is a nice little workaround.
Which was nice. Vision didn't come back.
At all.
Which I was bummed. I was so crushed because, just a little in the 1970s we saw. I'm thinking of the wrong person, sorry. No, he did not get mentioned at all, and I was crushed because I wanted him and Wanda to like reconnect, and I wanted her to get that, like even if one of them had to die again or like he had to die again, I wanted at least there to be like one more goodbye or something. So I was just, that sucked. I was like I was bummed about that.
Yeah, that was one of the disappointments.
But
to that, because Vision was a character that we've grown to like. I want to say love. I mean, maybe everyone. I don't know. Everyone had loved him, but
I think by Infinity War we were pretty like.
We want him, but I don't know if we had to be like Cap or Vision. I think everyone would be like, okay, go Vision.
Yeah.
All right, bye Vision.
Right. Okay, thanks, bye. So that was a bummer, but for the most part, I mean, I think that this movie did a great job at giving you like, I mean, every single thing couldn't be like coming from left field. Like it had to make sense and flow naturally, and just based on what we've seen in the in the last 11 years, there were some things we were able to figure out that we knew were going to happen, but also a lot of surprises and some twists that we didn't see coming, which I think was great too. You had mentioned
cameos.
Oh my God, the cameos were just like crazy. I was gonna say, you had mentioned that there are some things that worked for you and didn't work for you. What specifically didn't work for you? I think I know the biggest thing that didn't work for a lot of people. Fat Thor. Just throw it out there.
It's actually balanced with people that liked it and people that didn't like it. People that liked it to some degree was because of the humor, and some are arguing that it was a realistic approach to like having lost everything and letting yourself go because you just don't care anymore, which is completely understandable. Mm-hmm. But I think just naturally, just seeing where Thor's character has gone, I feel like this really made it hard for me to really support him in the same way that I was in the first few movies. He's just become more of a comic.
It was hard to take him serious.
Yeah.
I mean, like even in the very serious scenes and the standoffs in that third act when it was him, Cap, and Iron Man fighting against Thanos, like it was hard to take him serious. I was like, okay, use your thunder lightning to like melt away the fat. That's what I thought was going to happen. Like as soon as he, got some lightning in him, it was just going to kind of shed away and he would be back to his old form. But no, he stayed large throughout the whole film.
Yeah. Which, who knows if that's staying that way or moving forward. See, that's the thing. I think a lot of people are kind of just like, oh, it's just this one movie, but if it happens more than this, you guys wanted it. That's so, it's just one of the things that's like, and I only say I don't like it just because what it was doing to the movie was losing the impact of Thor's character on like one, how strong he is and how like important he is to the Avengers team, and two, it was just more of I don't see him as a hero right now. Like I would bench him. Like I would be like, Thor, you're sitting this one out. We're going to use Nebula.
I mean, they essentially kind of had to try to bench him when he was like wanting to put on the gauntlet and saying, I can undo this now.
Yeah, true.
And they were like, no, you're not in any like physical state of like goodness or wellness to be doing this. Like,
right.
So it's like,
And I was really hoping it was just going to be that first scene. And that's why I enjoyed the first scene at first. And you see Korg and Meek, and you're just like, oh, these characters from Thor Ragnarok. And I was like, okay, maybe something was going to happen, and he was going to be like, all right, let me get back in shape. You know, this is it. We can do this. We can save everyone. But no, I mean, I understand also the turn of events didn't give us like any windows of like, oh, 5 days have passed since they started working on, you know, time travel or anything. So I can understand that. But yeah, even the last thing, I was like, oh, get your, you know, your lightning, trim your fat, like get just, you know, into the Thor that we've seen for the last 21 movies. The long hair could have stayed. I would have been okay with the long hair staying. It didn't have to be short. But yeah, so that was to me one of the biggest disappointments because it just.
And then not to mention too, he had just such a scraggly beard, so it was like, man, it was like we get that you let yourself go, and you were in this kind of depressive state, and like even when they mentioned Thanos in the beginning, he was like, we don't mention that name here. Like I get that whole setup was fine, but now like let's you know get back to like old Thor. We need old Thor now. Like we need you to be on your A game. So it's like it would have been nice to have seen him kind of shape up and clean up and like really like. Address this epic battle that we're about to walk into as a little more.
I think they could have made it work. I think there are times when they were still getting everything ready to go that we can have at least seen a Thor workout scene to kind of just feel like, oh, he is getting back in shape. Something to kind of just
which would have added more comedy to it too. Like that could have even worked for
and like
it,
even just like the scene where they're in their suits going to the portal and you see him there. I'm just like I can't take you seriously as Thor. Like to me, you're Chris Hemsworth playing a character in the Avengers Endgame. I wasn't seeing Thor anymore, and
it wasn't, and that sucked too because you're specifically mentioning that scene, and that was supposed to be kind of like this kind of epic moment, you know, this like this. Like we're all these people walking to like go and like we're on the way to undo what was done. It was like, you know, and they had this kind of epic music playing, but to see him in this fat suit in that suit was like it was just a distraction.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the scenes, you know, with him that continued throughout the film, they were more so distracting, and I would have liked them to be more like heroic and more, like I could really focus on the heroism, and it was hard to, you know, I mean, I'm a big guy. Hey, I get it. Like, you know, like, but this is Thor. Okay. He's like, he should be in tip-top
That's
shape.
what I'm saying. It's not because he was fat. It was just the decisions they chose with the character that I felt took away from everything that he's been able to build up. And I do get he lost everything. And so in a real life situation, we do that, you know, in moments of time of depression, we let ourselves go. You know, we go through those crises that, you know, we either find ourselves a way out of it or someone helps us out. But we don't have time for that.
Yeah, we really don't. Like the time is a ticking. We only got 3 hours in this movie.
So, and it's just like, I understand Tony Stark also kind of moved on, and that was kind of like the opposite version, where there were some that, you know, had let themselves go because they couldn't grasp what happened, and there were some that were able to move on. But it wasn't things that were. I don't think that's those things that are going to stick out in the long run of this movie when you rewatch it. I think at some point you're going to be like, yeah, I wish we can see that different now. Like the first experience, absolutely fine. Everyone's felt the, you know, just caught up in the emotions of everything going on. But I think looking back and seeing that one, I personally I'm not going to have an ability to really appreciate those scenes when he's present there. It's going to be more of like, oh, there's that joke that I hate that's in the background, and you know, thing like that. So
yeah, absolutely. Another thing that was kind of, not to say it worked or it didn't work, but this whole issue of the time travel. I mean, we have to address it because I think people are still a little confused by it, and it's still, I don't know. I mean, you're telling me, I mean, we got this whole breakdown from Bruce and from, you know, there's this conversation between Bruce and War Machine about how time travel works, and, you know, they're referencing like Back to the Future and all these movies where they do time travel, and they're like, that's not how it works. Changing something in your past doesn't mean it changes something in your future.
Which is confusing in of itself. But.
Right. Yeah, and he said it, and he was like, I'm not even going to try to repeat what he said, because that whole line that Bruce Banner said was so confusing. And we're like, huh? So then they try to kind of break it down for us again when he's with the Ancient One, and she's talking about the flow of time and how all this stone, you know, the stones are all working together to keep the flow of time. And by removing one stone, you create a branch of time that, you know, and it may change something and fix things in your reality, but in my reality, it messes things up. So then we're like, okay, so then Bruce is like, if we put the stones back exactly at the precise moment where we took them, the flow of time will remain the same. Mm-hmm. Okay, so then we're like, all right, but it's like they're saying you can't change something in the past to create a new future, but they did.
Yes,
like they did.
There's a lot of things that they did.
I mean, I still don't. I'm still having a hard time wrapping my brain around that. And we've read so many like articles and fan theories and like YouTube videos, and it still does not.
Because there's some things that you're just trying to really understand the not even the science of it, just really trying to understand the rules that they've established.
Yeah.
Because the biggest one to me that comes to mind is when they went to go get the Space Stone in the Tesseract in 2012, they failed. Mm-hmm. And so then they go further back and grab the time and they get the Space Stone. I'm like, okay, cool. They can put that back, but you can't undo like Loki getting away like mm-hmm. that they already caused the alternate reality.
Yeah.
So I was like, how do you you can't undo that. So it's like at that point it's already messed up. And then there was just like,
so you can't like close off that alternate branch that happened, right?
Right.
So
because it's happened.
So returning the stones wouldn't have. I don't like the returning the stones doesn't undo that.
So yes.
Just how it's like Steve Rogers returned all the stones, but we still have 2014. Well, we don't know where Gamora is, but we still have 2014 Thanos. He died in 2014. Like he never went on.
He died in 20. Yeah,
or he died in 2024. But like it was his 2014 self. Like there's all these things that still happen. Like you went and took the stones and you put them back, but they still made these other things happen in real life. One of the theories that I read was like, well, all of the things that happened had always happened. We just never saw them. Like that was one theory. Like,
well, no, because
but then it's like that doesn't really make sense either. So it's and you were kind of jokingly saying like, this is why you don't do time travel. Right. Although there was no real way around it. I mean, especially with like,
well, there was. And that was not writing that Thanos destroyed the stones.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was just going to say that. Like, you put in there that he destroyed the stones, so the only other option is to do...
You could have easily said Thanos dispersed the stones throughout the galaxy.
And then we had to go on a voyage across the galaxy to go recapture them again or something.
And we re-encountered characters that we've seen already. Things like...
Because then we could have just used the time stone. And it would have just made things far less messy and less confusing.
And so the other one that, as you mentioned, pointed out, and the way I've concluded to how this is that there is no singular timeline. There's just, like, you know how the Ancient One showed that? I don't think there's ever that. Because when Bruce showed that, like, oh, if you take the time stone, it creates an alternate reality, I think that because of the small things that they did, it created a new reality. So like Loki getting away created a new reality that is not going to get put back. Thanos disappearing from his time in 2014 created a different reality. So nothing ever went back to one reality. Everything stayed off with different realities. Can you jump into those other realities, other universes? Maybe. I'm sure they probably will touch upon that. I would think they would touch upon it, but I think at that point there's just no one reality. I think that's just how the only best way to really just feel comfortable with it is that.
But then you're telling me that you're telling me that when Steve Rogers goes back and returns everything and he stays back and he lives his life with Peggy, that there's a reality where Captain America, well, there was no Captain America, right? Because he just decided to live this peaceful, somber life with his wife. So in that reality, but then that's another point. Then people are like, so did he just sit back and watch all of these bad things happen and just never did anything about it? Like he just chose a easy, breezy life with his wife instead of doing this?
With the assumption that someone else was always going to be there to stop the bad things that are happening. Maybe, which would be a little out of character.
Right, it wouldn't make sense.
So that's the only way that I took it. Because the rule of you can't go back and change your future is because every time you go back and change it, it just creates a different universe. Like a different, reality. That's how I took it as. That's why rule number one, you can't change your past, is because if I go back in time And
it's not like everything's gonna stay the same except for that one thing.
Exactly.
It's just gonna be a whole new timeline, a whole new reality.
A whole new branch has come out. Yes.
But then I'm like, well, if that, I mean,
and you could stay in that.
But
branch
then why would they
universe.
showcase this one stream of just like time? Like, why would the Ancient One say that?
That was her time. That's what I think. That's what they were trying to imply. That her time.
This is my time.
Yes.
And, okay.
You taking this stone is going to cause another reality. I think it's just one of those things that it was. They didn't undo everything. I think that's the part that they tried to make it sound like they did. Like, yeah, we did. We undid everything. We put all the stones back, which is a whole nother conversation of how did Captain America put the stones back?
How did you put the Soul Stone back?
Right.
That's what I want to know.
So you're telling me you stuck the ether and you put it back in Natalie Portman? How did you make that happen? How did you go like put the Soul Stone and be like, you know what, we don't need this anymore? Can we get
Black Widow back?
Right.
Can we get Gamora back? Like, sorry,
like that. That in itself, I already. I'm looking forward to how it should have ended. To make, I'm very confident they're going to make fun of that. If like Cap going actually putting all the stones back.
Oh yeah.
I'm looking for. I hope they do that, but that in itself is a whole nother set of questions.
And I think, I think if you can just not ask questions, you'll be satisfied with the ending.
Right.
But we're just like, what? Like, all these rules and all these like things that we know, and you're telling us to just ignore it and to just like be I guess we kind of joked about this too, but like we're like, okay, did Thanos get defeated? Did the Infinity Stones get put back? Like, did y'all win? All the superheroes come back? Okay, then stop complaining. I mean, I guess we can nitpick all day long, but it's just, I mean, that was just one of the biggest things about the film that had a lot of people scratching their heads, like, what? Like, just trying to understand.
It's getting the conversation going. Yes, I think that it's doing well of. But yeah, it's. I think the best way to put it is if you just continue on with the movie, there's more positives.
Yeah, there's more positives than negatives. So that's for sure. This was, as I was saying, this is kind of like one of those end of an era films. We're concluding Phase 3. We're saying goodbye to a lot of our beloved characters.
It's not done yet. Phase 3 ends with Spider-Man Far From Home.
I apologize.
So
excuse me.
Kevin Feige said that.
One more film.
One more.
Which is going to be interesting, and because it's supposed to take place directly after this movie, right?
That was the other one. All his friends apparently.
Right. So, like, mind you, Cassie, Ant-Man's daughter, she done aged 5 years, but Peter Parker returns to school, and it's like everybody's still the same. Like, y'all, what happened? Like, the whole entire school and all the faculty and all the staff, y'all got snapped into ash, and then now you guys are back. And now that we're back, we're just like, oh yeah, it's fine. Like, I've been missing for 5 years, but I'm gonna go to school. I'm gonna do my homework. Like, no. And I mean, just on a societal level, if this had really happened, if half of the population had went missing for 5 years and they came back, there would still be so much chaos and so much disorder, and people wouldn't know what to do with themselves. I mean, it's not like life would just continue like, oh, the next day, like everyone came back, and the next day everybody went to school and everybody showed up for work and the banks were open. Like, that wouldn't happen.
Although we should watch the that one show with the plane.
Oh, the
Manifest.
Yeah. Maybe that'll give us some little
societal
insight.
question answered. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that is another thing. But yeah. There's a lot of things about this film, but I wanted to ask you, how do we feel about how they kind of tied up some of the arcs for these characters? We said goodbye. We said our goodbyes to Iron Man, to Captain America, to Black Widow. Those are like the for sure main ones. Thor is a part of Galactic.
Hawkeye kind of looks like he also has a conclusion that he's back to his family.
Yeah, exactly. So. Are we satisfied with it? I mean, obviously, I'm devastated that Iron Man died, but I knew he was going to die, or we knew somebody was going to die, and I'm totally fine with the way that he went out and sacrificed himself for everyone.
It's tricky. It's tricky for two reasons. One, because they're continuing to make Marvel movies. We don't know exactly what that leads for these characters. Because Black Widow has her own solo movie coming out, which they're saying it's a prequel, which, okay, that's fine, but why would we want to see a prequel to a character that's like not going to be a major player?
Yeah.
So there's some questions on things like that. Like the speculation that Iron Man can come back as an AI, and it's just like, isn't that too soon? Like, are we saying goodbye to these characters? Or are we just saying see you soon? Like, I don't know, that kind of thing.
Wink, wink.
Right. And then the other one, to me, as a comic book fan, it's not satisfying only in the sense because a lot of the stories that that I know these characters are part of, they're no longer going to be a part of. So it's just kind of like, then it's not the same, which I know Marvel has been doing its own version of these like moments and character arcs and storylines. And I know that, and I do get that, but I still feel like they still were keeping things available with these characters being around. Now it's kind of like the next big event doesn't have Iron Man or Captain America. It's kind of just hard to kind of accept that as of right now.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's still so soon, you know.
Right. So if this was Avengers Endgame, the end of Marvel Studios making this cinematic universe, and then afterwards they're going to do like different experiments or different things, then I would be like, yes.
If they were going to start fresh, like a clean slate, like we're introducing all new characters.
Like if they were just like, oh, we're going to focus on X-Men and X-Men's universe or something like that, then yes, I would say this was a satisfying conclusion. But because they're going to make more, and they're going to make another Avengers movie, especially that it's breaking records at the box office. Of course, they're going to make another one, Avengers 5, coming 2025 probably, something like that.
Yeah.
I feel like, yes, it's not satisfying, only in the sense that they're probably going to want to bring these characters back to some capacity. Maybe not like they're the lead roles. Maybe they come back in that surprise cameo in the same way like Ancient One was in it, or whatever. But then that naturally diminishes their deaths or their goodbyes.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, oh, we'll see them again. And then after that, are we always going to see them again? Is always going to be when it's plot convenience to see them? So there's a lot of things like that come into play. So as a movie and as the past 21 films, it is satisfying. But overall, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I don't think it's satisfying just because it's not a definitive end for the franchise overall.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to ask you, because this movie is 3 hours and how long? 4 minutes? 2 minutes? 3 hours, 2 minutes long.
Which is also Batman v Superman.
Okay, gotta throw that out there. Obviously MCU fans were not complaining about the length. They're like, bring it on. We'll take a 4-hour movie. We'll take a 5-hour movie. We don't care however long it takes, whatever it takes, as Cap said. I wanted to ask, was there anything that you felt that we didn't need to see? I guess what I'm asking is, was there anything that could have been edited out? Not that we wanted it.
The entire time travel.
Not that we wanted it. I know, right? Well, specifically, like one scene that you had mentioned was when you said we didn't need to see Hawkeye waking up in the same manner after he got the Soul Stone, after Black Widow died.
Yeah.
Waking up in the same manner that Thanos woke up in that pool of water in Infinity War. And you're like, we didn't really need to see that.
That could have been a deleted scene, yeah.
Was there any particular little moments where like, we didn't need to see that?
I would say
that was the first one that came to mind because you mentioned it. So
I would say there are maybe 15% of the movie that could have been trimmed down that wouldn't have any effect on the movie. And I know people would make the argument that, it just gives it a little space to transition to go into the next part of the story or all these things. But I just feel like it still could have worked well without some things. And not to bash on Hawkeye, but we didn't need to see his family die. That's something else. I know that was a short scene, but him being as Ronin would have told you he lost his family. And in fact, watching the first trailer, seeing him, reveal himself as that villain, you would jump to the conclusion he lost his family. And he can easily tell you by saying, I lost my family.
Yeah.
So that was an easy thing to, remove. I get why they filmed it. I get it. So I think little things like that would have made a difference. The community support group, it was nice to see. It was nice to kind of try to understand what this, life is become. But at the same time, there's so much things in the story that they have to tell. It's a very small little thing that you really would not miss out. You want to be like, but I really wanted to know
why you got to try to remove the only one LGBTQ character, though.
I mean,
no,
again, they could have found another way to put it. So yeah, I think little things like that, because the other moments really relevant to the characters. I think just the little things like that could have been removed. Overall, I think the movie still would have been like 2 hours and 40 minutes. I don't think you could have really trimmed the last hour. That couldn't have been trimmed. The time traveling couldn't have been trimmed for two reasons. I think the nostalgia, I think they hit the right marks. And then two, we really needed to understand exactly how they were retrieving them in each location. Whether they could have messed up and Loki didn't get away, that could be a different argument. people are speculating that's because now Loki has his own TV show. That's why they had that little scene. Mm-hmm. We'll see. So I would say there's some things that could have been removed, but 15% I think probably would have been what you can remove. Everything else was needed for the story.
Pretty vital to the story, yeah. I gotcha. All right, so I guess I'll just say it. Favorite parts. Not favorite part, not your favorite scene, but like because there were so many like I'd say epic moments.
Yes.
And we kind of touched on them in the last episode. Obviously, I'd say one of the basically when they all traveled back. So when we went to New York in 2012,
saw the first shot
of the Avengers film, and the audience just lost it. Like, yeah, that was like so epic, so cool. Captain America in the elevator scene where it was the Winter Soldier scene, which I thought was gonna play out as it was just gonna be another fight. That was a great scene. I mean, I guess I'm not really going anywhere with this. I'm just trying to like relive some of these epic moments because they were so epic. Which a lot of it, I said this to you the other night too, but it was like, it seemed like all these epic moments that we were getting were kind of like this kind of fan fiction, like
fan service,
like, it's just for the fans. Like, oh, that'd be so cool if like when Captain America goes back and he sees his old self and he like fights himself and like, and it happened. I feel like they were just giving us a lot of bones, throwing us a lot of bones for these really
absolutely.
These really epic scenes. Which one? I think I know what your favorite one is out of amongst them all. But go ahead and tell us.
So the one on the top, I think for me is still the Captain America going into the elevator, and you get the Winter Soldier cast, including your Frank Grillo. Mm-hmm. That in itself, because Winter Soldier is my favorite Marvel movie, so to have that moment and then have Cap just say "Hail Hydra," I think that in itself is where I in a way kind of lost it internally, screaming. Because I didn't scream out loud, because it's just of what that means. One of like, yes, we were like, that's the scene that I loved in the Winter Soldier. Him saying "Hail Hydra" because he knows everyone there is a Hydra agent. Like all those like little things that were just like, mm-hmm. I understand, I get what we know what's going on. And just like when he walked out of the elevator with that smile, because we were walking away with the smile in that scene. So I think that to me was my ultimate favorite because of how it was put in, even though this was 2012 and this had not taken place yet. So it wasn't like the same way like when the first Avengers, when they get there and they see like them dealing with Loki, that was nice. But you were able to see how they like played around with that versus this one was unexpected. I think truly that's probably the biggest thing, is that it was unexpected. I did not expect Frank Grillo to appear. I did not expect the Hydra agents to go in the elevator in the exact same position. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, and like even like when we saw Natalie Portman, like I was like, I thought that was, I didn't know if I was like, did they take the scene from like Thor Underworld?
And some people are saying yes, and some people are saying it was like a deleted scene. I don't know. I can't confirm. But
because I was trying to decipher like, okay, are all like what scenes are just like replicated, or like they just took from the movie, and what scenes are like maybe they're like potentially new.
The first Avengers shot when they're showing everyone that had to be reused. I don't think they would film that scene again.
Are you talking about when they're on the ground level?
Yes,
and it's like they're panning around.
Yes.
Yeah.
That had to be reused. Mm-hmm. I just feel like it didn't make
sense. But when they were inside the building and like when the Hydra agents were like taking that was.
And then I was just like, well, how did they do Black Widow's hair? But I was like, a wig. But
yeah. But it was like,
I was like, why couldn't they pull that Thor that was in shape?
I know, right?
And just be like, hey, let me catch you up to speed. All right, we need you.
So you'd say that, so the Hail Hydra, that was your favorite?
I think that was my favorite because it was unexpected.
I was thinking you were going to say
the hammer.
The hammer scene.
That was right below it. I mean, that's like right.
You're like splitting hairs.
Right, exactly. Because that in itself, when he took on Thanos by himself, I was like, just give me 5 minutes of this and I can die.
That was pretty epic.
Because he knew how to use it. I think that was the most thing. It wasn't like here, let me, throw it at you and that's it. It was like lightning strikes,
right? And such a great
with the hammer and the shield,
and such a great little nod to Age of Ultron with the whole running joke of like no one can wield this hammer like other than Thor, and then Captain America was the only one that got super close and he barely nudged it, and Thor got really nervous, so it was like.
But then he got excited in this one. That was one I was just like, wouldn't he be kind of? I mean, I know he went through a lot. So
I mean, maybe because he was just about to die, so he's like, well, I don't care.
True,
like,
maybe.
Because at first I was like, is he kind of... At first I was like, is he controlling the hammer? Like, is he making it go to... Is he like kind of sending it to Captain America? That's what I wasn't sure at first. I guess I'm still
I
not
don't think
sure,
Captain America was... Because he caught it in the sense that he was expecting it. So I'm assuming Cap was
like just reaching out like I'm worthy. Like, you know, like I'm the only one that can do this right now. Come on.
That's going to be a deleted scene.
Right. I'm worthy.
But the other moment that I also loved was the scene with all the heroes returning and all that.
That was probably...
I loved the shot
Yeah.
With Cap saying Avengers Assemble.
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
I mean, that was, there's no words to describe how monumental that was.
I'm going to paint the side of my bedroom.
And it just, the way it was filmed, I mean, like, and what'd you say?
I'm going to paint the side of my bedroom with that scene.
Oh my gosh, a mural. You know, we had like Thanos once again looking like he was, I mean, we knew we were pretty sure he wasn't going to win, but it seemed like he was at that point in the story. He had, you know, his whole entire fleet, all these monsters, all his people, you know, he had the upper hand. They were outnumbered. And, you know, it was just kind of like, in that moment, you're just like, damn, how are we going to win? And then you just hear in his ear, like, Cap, coming in on your right. And that's when and then you see the portal open and you see T'Challa and Shuri and, I always forget her name. I feel so bad.
For Shuri?
No. The other,
Okoye?
Yeah, Okoye?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had them all walking out, and then you see all the portals opening, and then it's like, oh my God! Yeah. And you're just losing your mind, and the theater was just like going crazy, like, oh, such an epic moment. And yes, Avengers Assemble, like, you're just, I think I got an erection. I was just that excited. So yeah, that's probably my very favorite. I mean, that was probably my favorite scene from the film. All those moments we talked about were
that last hour in itself was like the best.
Honestly, like I mean, we've seen it twice now, but we're gonna see it a bunch more times. But I just want to this is when I wish I had it, that we owned it at home, so I could just watch the last hour.
Yes.
Because that in and of itself is just,
as of right now, I think that's the greatest Avengers scene. Like all of the other movies that have done, even like Civil War's little airport, like, you know, match, like little not match, face off. So things like that. I think this was truly the greatest sequence.
Mm-hmm. Was it the best superhero movie in the MCU?
For me personally, no, but it's not low. It's Captain America: The Winter Soldier is still up there.
Still your favorite?
Yes, because that in itself is just on a whole nother level. For me personally, I would say it's within the top 5. Don't make me pick right now, but it's within the top 5.
Okay.
I was thinking about this, and initially, with the whole time traveling being confusing, I kind of initially was like, Infinity War has a little edge here because I understood Infinity War. It was pretty, you know, clear and simple. But I think ultimately, Endgame, just because I've seen all 22 movies, it's not like, you know, the next day and be like, yeah, but I don't remember those movies anymore. I feel like I can always go back to watch Endgame and get excited for the second half of the movie. Mm-hmm. The first half in itself, I probably, you know, would be just more than just be like skip.
Like
right. Let me just watch this one funny scene with Ant-Man thinking he can get a picture with the kids, and the kids were just like, nah.
Mm-hmm.
Like things like that.
Funny.
So things like that, I probably would stop and see.
Speaking of that scene when they had all that food on the table because, you know, Bruce Banner was like, you know, he's him. It's like half whole, half him. But I was like hoping that they were gonna show him eating all of that food because it was like a huge bowl of eggs, a huge platter of sausage links, a huge pile of pancakes.
I got hungry.
I was like hoping, I know, right? I was hoping he was just gonna like scarf it all down. I was like, and then I was like one of the more disappointing moments that I didn't get to see that.
To me that was just a disappointing, and that was kind of what I slightly hinted in the recap was I really wanted us to see him coming to this moment of being one with the Hulk, because I feel like it was a big moment in Infinity War that it kind of got glossed over for the sake of we need to move this story along. But I'm just like, but you got time to show Hawkeye's little moments. Mm-hmm. I was like, I felt like we should have saw the moment where Bruce Banner finally was able to become Hulk, but keep himself in it and not like let the monsters take control. Because it was also disappointing to not see all the movies we've seen of the Hulk. He's doing his thing, ramping, you know, destroying, Hulk smashing, all those fun stuff. And in Infinity War,
he's like,
or not Infinity War, in Endgame,
he's calm as a cucumber.
Yeah.
Like we don't see him do much other than use his intellect, with the whole time travel.
Great joke when he goes back in 2012 and sees himself and he kind of was like, looks ashamed.
Yeah.
Great joke. But in Endgame, at the last hour, I needed to see him go. Like, I wanted him to just be like, all right, let me go loose. Let me let loose.
Yeah, and let's just...
And I know his arm was injured. I get it, but he has another arm, and he's the Hulk. He can just jump and smash, right? He doesn't need to use both arms every single moment.
True.
I get he was in pain, but the writers wrote him in that moment, so it's not my fault.
I didn't come up with this. They did. So are you saying that out of Infinity War and Endgame, which one was the better film overall?
I think Endgame. For the second half, I think it really delivers that feeling that everything you've seen before, and including Infinity War, is paying off.
Yeah.
And you just get an awesome fight sequence with Thanos. You get that big epic crossover comic book feeling that I've been hoping to get more of. So that I think it just delivered that really well. But yeah, and I mean all the other movies show importance to it. Except for the Incredible Hulk. That's the only one that's like,
dang,
out of all the 20, and that's not me, that's Marvel, but out of all the 22 movies, that's the one you can actually skip and be okay, because only one character is relevant moving forward.
Yeah.
Because they recast.
Yeah.
The Hulk. So it's kind of like, not even that makes sense.
Can you imagine if we saw like a little cameo by Ed Norton like in there somewhere?
That would be cool if we did get like some kind of representation from that movie outside of General Ross, who was just like, they haven't done anything with him either, but that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, it's really nice to that, like, all of it really pays off watching Endgame.
Yeah. I think
that's what really sells it more, and I think that's why I enjoyed it more than Infinity War. Infinity War left it in a way that, yes, it was seeing all the characters we've seen, but it didn't conclude it in the story, and it wasn't finished. The story wasn't finished. You needed essentially, if the first 15 minutes of Endgame was in Infinity War, then I might say maybe Infinity War might have had this slight edge, but
I feel like I agree. I feel like Infinity War had an edgier opening and beginning, and that's just, I mean, maybe it was already set up for us to continue, like, to finish the story. So it's, but if you're just talking, like, just thinking of like how it opened and how it ended, like Infinity War was like, whoa, like, oh my God. But we knew we were gonna hopefully get some resolution with this part 2. So it is what it is.
But it really becomes its own movie.
Yeah, I feel like, honestly, I mean, Endgame is just like, I kind of said it already, but it's like you get superhero, you get like action, like thriller, like spy thriller, you get like sentimental, like these dramatic moments and these heartfelt moments. You get comedy. It's like, and I think it's just Marvel doing what it does best. It's like throwing all the best elements of a film into this, one body.
With the mixture of fan service, with the mixture of, epic scenes.
And I really feel like the fans got, like, their they got, it was paid off. They
got their $21.50 IMAX.
Yeah, like I felt like they got exactly what, and I feel like, and even not even that, but just like being dedicated since Iron Man back in 2008. Like I feel like you stuck with the MCU all this time, and you're gonna get rewarded for being a loyal fan. And we did, and it's like, it's insane. I can't believe we're finally to this point, but. It's
ride ain't over, though.
The ride ain't over. It's not over.
July coming up. Spider-Man: Far From Home.
Exactly. So that's going to be interesting, and what they, just to hear what, I don't know, how they reference back to Endgame, and that'll be fun.
And they got now Fantastic Four and X-Men in their playbook, so more villains. Like there's a few villains that come to mind that really can that can lead to it as an epic storyline as Thanos did. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the Infinity Saga is over.
Yeah. Well, I think we've arrived at this moment here. Real score time.
Oh no.
Avengers Endgame.
Tune into part 3.
Listen to our next episode to hear our real scores.
We're going to do it. We'll end exactly how Infinity War ended, and then tune into the next review.
Dang.
Ugly Dolls. You'll be.
Oh my gosh. No, but yeah. Okay, so real score. Endgame. What is it?
I'm gonna give. It's kind of tough because we don't do anything outside of the complete number or 0.5, and I honestly feel like it's in between. But
you want to give it a 4.75?
Well, 4.8. I was.
Oh, okay. I thought we were going
a little right, but like a little. To me, honestly, like if I was able to put that decimal in wherever spot, I would say 0.8. But I'll be, on the more happier spectrum with, and not putting those like doubts of the time travel questions and all that in place. So I will say it's a 5 out of 5.
Okay.
I think the storyline in itself is just a great way to conclude everything you've seen before. It would be a much different feeling if we knew this was legit the end and we're not getting any other Marvel movies connected to this universe. So I think that has some factor as well. It's not a perfect movie in terms of like the storyline, as we had those flaws, those things that we talked about. The first act, I would say, can be removed and you still get the same storyline. It's just a continuation from the last Infinity War. But overall, I think it's a satisfying experience, and I think when you experience it with the fans and you experience it with people that love these characters, it makes it 10 times better. I think this is probably one of the better experiences I've ever had going to see a movie, and that's going to leave an impact on just my overall feeling of this movie. But I will say, 5 out of 5 for this one, because a 4.5 I just feel like is not right. I feel like that's not my true feeling. So
yeah.
I would say 5 out of 5 in this case.
I'd rather give it more credit than give it not enough credit. So I'm as well going to give it a 5 out of 5. I think it was, aside from all the logistical aspects and, us being nitpicky about, well, how, if the time travel thing really was true, then how does that work? And not looking too much at the physics of it or the laws of, I guess, just kind of putting that to the side. I think it was such an epic film. I think it's hard to describe. It's hard to talk about, because it's like this is 11 years in the making, and
right,
and so many storylines and characters and places, that we've been to all over the galaxy, and just to see everything accumulate into this one film. I think it's one of those, it's like, I feel like we're going to look back and be like, do you remember when Endgame finally came out? Like it's going to be one of those, like, we're going to remember, like, people are going to be talking about this for a long time. It's going to be, I think, one of those key moments, one of those defining moments in the timeline of film and cinema.
Yeah.
So, it's really been exciting to get to like witness this and be a part of it. And the movie is just so epic. It's so many amazing, incredible, indescribable moments, and it's just it's such a good film. And we've seen it twice, and I do want to see it again. And I love it. I loved it. So I think I'm right there with you. I don't want to give it like the 5 out of 5 because there are some little things that I'm just like being nitpicky about, but a 4.5 I don't feel like it does it justice either.
Yeah.
So I'd rather be a little over generous, and I'll give it the full 5 out of 5.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah. So
we just got the conclusion to the main heroes that we've followed since Iron Man, except for Thor, who's my least favorite, the one that's getting.
I know, the one who's like continuing on.
Right.
I wish they would have just kind of ended it there. And who knows what they'll do for Guardians 3, but
we'll see. That's the thing. That's the exciting thing is, yes, it's not the end, and we have more of these characters to some degree, more new characters, a whole new probably, storyline, story arc. And so maybe we might have another Endgame following. Maybe we might have something as
epic as this.
Yeah.
Only time will tell. From now. Yeah, exactly.
So the Reel-ists Podcast would be on episode, what's the math on that? Episode.
Is it times 10? So like episode like
1,000. Wow, we did
it. We will see. But well, listeners, definitely let us know what your guys' thoughts were on Endgame. I want to know if it's like the best superhero movie ever for you guys, or if it's just like
was it your best? I don't know. Did you say was it your best superhero?
Oh, I can't. No, it's not the best, but it's like it's top 3 though. It's not. I can at least.
Are you talking about Marvel, right?
I'm talking about MCU. Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, top 3. It's I don't know that I'll put it at the top, but it's definitely top 3.
Fair enough.
So
I said top 5 for mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I give myself a little wiggle room.
yeah, I know, right? So, but yeah, definitely know what your guys' thoughts are on it. Remember, we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at Team Reelist, Team REELISTS, no dash. Also on YouTube and on iTunes as well, so you guys could drop us a comment there. But thank you guys so much for listening to us. Hope you enjoyed the episode. If you haven't seen this film, after listening to these 2 episodes,
put that product placement in there.
Then you just gotta go. You gotta go check it out. Avengers Endgame in theaters now. Everywhere.
Check it with AMC A-list stubs. Up to 3 movies a week. $19.95 a month.
For real, just get on board, man. Get on board. But anyways, thank you guys so much. Until next time.
Thank you.